You're now watching the Mike Missanelli podcast on the BetRivers Network.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Missanelli podcast. Well, it's a big podcast today as we roll into the weekend of playoff football games. Now, the Eagles don't play on the weekend. I don't know, Monday night, it comes out of nowhere. They're going to play a Monday night playoff game against the Tampa Bay Bucs. We all know what the ramifications of this game are. If the Eagles lose the game, I think you will see a total overhaul of the Eagles coaching staff. The head coach, the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, the assistants, all of that will be determined by the front office. If they win the game, and I'm going to tell you up front, I think they will by the skin of their teeth. The line is 3 right now. I think they will win by 2 or even 1. I think Sirianni saves his job, but I think at the end, Mr. Owner calls him in the office and says, listen, we would love to go for you with another year, but here's what you have to do. You have to fire and rehire all your coordinators and your staff, and we're going to give you some well-thought-out suggestions for you to follow. I think that's the way it's going to come out. Now, let's look at the game itself. There are a lot of people have bailed out on the Eagles. And what I say to them is, you're right to bail out on the Eagles. They have no chance to do anything, in my opinion, beyond this game. The season has turned into a disaster. You start out 10-1, you wind up with 11 wins. You go 1-5 in your last 6. That's pretty much a disaster. I don't know exactly how it happened. You can trace the steps. You can do the autopsy, which we've done. And it started with the San Francisco 49ers just taking their heart away from them. And then the panic of changing the offensive defensive coordinators, and then the rancor in the locker room with A.J. Brown, and it goes on and on and on. And you can pile all that up when we're in the offseason, and this is what happened to the Eagles season. And you can do it as well as I can. All right, Tampa Bay, conversely, has won 5 of its last 6 games. They have buttoned down their defense a lot. Todd Bowles has always been a good defensive coordinator against the Philadelphia Eagles. He blitzes, and we'll get into the X and O's of that. But there is no way you're going to tell me that even though Tampa Bay is riding a high, that they are a better football team than the Eagles. Now, we kind of forget about the fact that they were good enough to go 10-1. Tampa Bay wasn't good enough to go 10-1. So on paper, I believe the Eagles have the edge. And that's the reason why I think they will prevail by the skin of their teeth. They will win a close game. And there are people out there say, well, what does it matter? Well, it matters. It matters to win a playoff game as opposed to losing in the first round after you started off the season 10-1. It's not going to reduce the sting of getting hammered by the 49ers in the second round, although some strange things could happen, and maybe you don't play the 49ers in the second round if the Rams upset the Dallas Cowboys. So let's get into the X and O's of this game primarily. Let's go with the Eagles versus the Tampa Bay offense. We know the Eagles defense has been a pile of doo-doo, and they're not going to fix it in 1 week. And in fact, the defensive coordinator has caused more confusion than help with the Eagles defense. So we all know what's happening. The defensive end's not getting any pressure. They're misplaying Hassan Reddick, who can't drop in coverage, and they insist on putting him in coverage. Their linebackers are weak, although Zach Cunningham is coming back. Their defensive tackles are played out. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham is cooked. So we're trying to get blood from a stone defensively here. Now, here's what Tampa does on offense. They use 12 personnel. That's a 2 tight end set, and they used it 23.7% of the time this year. That is top 5 in the NFL. So the Eagles are going to have to see a lot of that, which means they may have to drop some defensive linemen in coverage. And one of the guys they've been using in that situation is Nolan Smith, a young guy who's really not ready for prime time, and we've seen that he has not responded well when put in that role. Now, the Eagles' offense used to have long drive acumen. If you look at the stats at the end of the year, you'll find that the Eagles were 6th in the league in yards and points per drive. But 15.3% of those drives ended in turnovers, which is the third most in the league. All right. They have long drives. They also give it up. So it negates that. In the first game against the Bucs, keep in mind they beat them 25-11 earlier this year. The Bucs weren't obviously the team they are now. The Eagles were on a high. Eagles rushed for 201 yards in that first game. DeAndre Swift, who's back in the lineup, had 130. But since that game, the Bucs buttoned down their defense. They ended up 5th in the NFL against the rush. So I know there are people out there saying, all you got to do is run the ball. You should run the ball more against this team. Well, Tampa Bay has proven that they're pretty good against the run. So I don't think they're going to run the ball. The Eagles have only scored 20-plus points in 3 of the last 5 games. I have just described for you a meltdown on both sides of the football. So you're saying to yourself, well, Mike, are you out of your mind? How are the Eagles going to win? I don't know. I got to be honest, I don't know, except I believe in the better roster. Tampa Bay, I think, is a paper tiger. They're not even a tiger, frankly. So I think the Eagles are going to outlast them in this game. And I'm looking at a score like, I don't know, 23-21, something like that. The line currently is 3 points. It started off at 3, went down to 1.5, and it's back up to 3 now after it went up to 2.5. So there's some money coming in on the Eagles, which now makes them a 3-point favorite. All right, let's bring in producer Darren. Darren, what is your feeling on this game in general?
I got a couple things here. First of all right. So, yes, the Bucs do run a lot of 12 personnel. You're right. Their tight ends are Cleft and Cade Otton. I'm not
very underrated. Very underrated
maybe
tight ends.
They don't send a chill of fear down my spine. Now, that's okay. Maybe Cunningham back's going to help them a little bit. I will say this. The Eagles are going to be healthier on Monday than they've been overall as a team, than they've been in weeks. They really, but the one thing this team doesn't do offensively is throw between the numbers. They haven't done it all year. I've been screaming for it. When they do, they are highly successful. I would like to see that Monday night because I think they can take advantage of Tampa's linebackers and safeties if they do that. The owner chose these coordinators. So, when we worry about change and all that stuff right now, get that out of the way. I know that was your first thing you talked about, bringing new coordinators in. I'm not worried about that right now because the owner's going to choose them again. So we have to deal with ones that we have now. It's going to be a similar situation next year. But as far as this game, it's going to be there. The quarterback might be hurt. He's got to make some plays. Maybe take some pressure off the finger with running the ball and continue to throw between the numbers. I'm not worried about Mike Evans so much. I think that Slay will do a decent job on him. But he's their only playmaker that I worry about. He really is. That said, the Eagles are going to lose on Monday.
Here's the Eagles' 3 most important players coming into this game. The quarterback, obviously. The wide receiver, A.J. Brown. Slay.
Right.
All 3 of them are injured. The 3 most important players on the team
you're probably right.
are banged up.
And
in this game, the 3 most
I
important
totally
players
agree.
are not 100%.
And that's
so
they're still healthier than they've been in weeks.
Okay, well, that doesn't mean they're healthy.
That's why I'm telling you they're still going to lose.
The quarterback and the main offensive guy not healthy.
Right, I get that. But they just the defensive line. It would be a good week for the defensive line to help everybody out here and get home, and maybe get to Baker Mayfield. Maybe pop him a couple times early in the midsection. He's got that rib injury he's dealing with.
Listen, what you say is correct. But what we're talking about the realistic possibility of that. This is what ideal in realistic possibilities. Right. So I could sit here and say, oh yeah, their front 4 has to step it up. Where are they? What are they going to do? Are they rechargeable batteries? These guys, do you plug them in like an electric car? They're going to be ready to roll.
Really,
they're played out.
I agree. It's a shame because I think hopefully Slay has something left. And maybe he could have played the last couple of weeks, but maybe they said let's just save him for the playoffs. I like to think.
Forget about Slay.
Well, they're going to need him to step up.
You divert. You were just talking about the defensive front. All of a sudden, you go to Slay.
I'm trying to find a way for them to win the game.
The defensive front. Talk to me about how where they're going to plug themselves in to regenerate.
They can't. They really can't because their two young guys are washed for the year. They're not washed for the year, but they're out of gas.
What are you saying? What are you saying? You're not talking.
I'm saying their young
absolutes.
guys are out of gas and their veterans are washed. And that's why this team can't get home.
How realistic is it? Do you think their front four is going to be able
I don't
to
think
dominate?
they will at all. I'm telling you they're going to lose the game.
So are you saying, before we get off of this, are you saying that you don't believe the Eagles will win? Because you just didn't. You just painted a blurry picture.
I've
Frank.
said 3 times they're going to lose.
At first, you said the Eagles are going to be healthier than they have been.
Yes,
the whole time.
I'm trying to find a positive spin. I'm just trying to find a positive spin.
If you want, I need the realistic.
The
spin
realistic
from you.
spin is they don't have enough horses on the defensive line, and they're not going to get home, and they're not going to win the game because.
Eureka! We get to the conclusion. You believe they won't win
Mike,
the game.
I love you. I said it 4 times. They're going to lose. I hate to say it.
Okay.
I hate to say it.
All right.
I hate to say that.
I painted a totally negative picture, and I think they're going to win. You paint a negative picture.
I tried to find a positive
so
spin.
We will see.
I tried to find a positive spin with their health.
I don't think this is a monumental task for them, even though they are falling apart at the seams. I am not convinced that this team is going to be bad enough to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round. Now, maybe I'm an idiot, and I'm really an Eagle hater right now for what I've seen over the last several weeks. I just have a hunch that there is no way that Tampa Bay, if it was any other team they were playing, I would never make a case for the Eagles win. This is the only team in this whole bonanza that I believe is capable of losing to the Philadelphia Eagles.
8 times out of 10, I would completely agree with you. However, I see this sideline. I've checked out in too many faces of too many of these players, and that scares me.
Okay. Darren thinks they're going to lose. You get a final score?
They're going to lose something like they're not going to score a lot of points, like 20-16. It's not going to be a fun game to watch. 20-16, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I like 22, and I see. Puts me
for the Eagles.
Spot. No, I like them to score 20. So it puts me in a precarious spot because I don't think they're going to cover the number. But the only number I can come up with Tampa Bay, I can't come up with 18 or 19. So
you go push.
I'll come up with 2017, and it's a kissing your sister push.
I got 20-16 losses. By the way, line opened at 1.5. You always talk about the sharp money, so maybe you're on to something here. Line opened at 1.5, shot right up to 2.5 within a day.
Yeah, all right.
Has gone up to
2017. That's not going to help anybody as far as you bet in the game.
No.
I'll go 2017 Eagles.
All right.
Okay. There you go with the lowdown on the Eagles-Bucs playoff game Monday night. Of course, you can see me on the post-game show, the Jacob Media post-game show Monday night. If you can stay up till 4 a.m., you'll be able to see our post-game show live from.
Are we recording at 5 a.m.? Our reaction?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm doing a post-game show in the wee hours of the morning.
9-hour post-game.
We have 3 people rolling dice in the whole joint. All right. Let's move on to the Flyers. Believe it or not, oh my God. The Flyers have become a story this week for only one reason. Because the prize draft pick of 2 years ago, Cutter Gauthier, and people say, well, who names their kid Cutter? Lenny Dykstra's kid's name's Cutter. Who cares about what the kid's first name is? He plays for Boston College, and a change of heart, he says, I don't want to play for the Flyers. When they drafted him, he was all about playing for the Flyers. He since said he studied the equation of the Flyers and didn't like what he saw, didn't like the nature of the organization, all this turmoil, how they're starting over. He also seems to be a little spooked by the fan base here. And all of a sudden, the name Kevin Hayes comes into the picture. Kevin Hayes, a Boston College guy. Cutter Gauthier, also a Boston College guy. There was a report from a guy who actually was another one of my producers back in the day, who covers the Flyers and the Phillies for Crossing Broad here. His name is Anthony Sanfilippo. He had a report that said one of the factors in Cutter Gauthier turning down the Flyers was that Kevin Hayes badmouthed the coach, Tortorella. Now,
I think he said, quote unquote, Mike, that he was told that Kevin Hayes' fingerprints were all over this.
yes, and one of the fingerprints is that Kevin Hayes really didn't get along with Tortorella at the end and ended badly in the whole bit. Well, John Tortorella spoke on this. Now, there's a couple things that, as an old journalist I pick up on that have nothing to do with the actual subject matter. But let's see, do we have Tortorella? This is Tortorella after the last Flyers game addressing this particular situation, and in particular addressing the man who had that report about Kevin Hayes' fingerprints being all over this.
Is the guy here? The guy here that caused Kevin Hayes a problem?
Yes.
You?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Do you think Kevin Hayes is going to do something like that?
Any last questions?
Person letting the first two buy him.
It pisses me off that you guys throw that around and affect someone's life. Kevin Hayes and I had a problem. We couldn't come to an agreement how to play. That's a good man. That's a good man. And what you said is going to stay with him. That's what you guys don't understand. You say something, and you're going to sit there and say you have the right sources. I call. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. So there it is. He's got a point in that a report like that, if it's not totally accurate, it really throws Kevin Hayes under the bus as a rat. So you got to be really diligent about your sources before you report something like that. Here's the thing that popped out at me. Anthony St. Fleur has been covering the Flyers for a long time. Tortorella didn't know who he was. So Tortorella goes, is the guy who filed the report here? You mean to tell me you've never crossed paths with him? Like, that's off the subject. So let's get back on the subject. If the guy doesn't want to play for your organization, he doesn't want to play for your organization. What are you going to do about it? It happened to J.D. Drew. These guys have a choice if they want to play in a particular city or not. So here's what's going to happen to that poor kid. He's going to get excoriated by this Flyer fan base. There's going to be death threats. They're going to throw stuff on the ice when the kid comes here. Fortunately, he's in Anaheim. He won't come here like one time. But the kid is obviously an immature kid. And if you looked at the landscape, the Flyers are a team that has tremendous support from their fan base, misguided support from their fan base. They are loyal to a fault, the people that follow this team. So I don't know what kind of information he got. And if he listened to one guy poison him because the guy didn't like the head coach, well, that kid's got to grow up. But he's gone, and he's not public enemy number one to me. He made a choice. So his choice is now to sign with the Ducks and play there in their organization, or wait out his total college career where he can become a free agent. I can't blame the kid because, see, we take this stuff personally. Well, you don't want to play with us, you're a bad guy. Well, no, he's not. He just didn't want to play here. All right, he made a decision. All right, this isn't like free agency. We don't bitch and moan about free agency. You got free agency to earn the right to play where you want to play. All right, let's go with the Sixers. I've said it before. How many times have I said this? The Sixers can't win without Embiid. Now, I don't know how many teams can win a championship without their star player, so don't get me wrong here. But this team is not good enough to overcome the loss of him at all. They don't have other people that can carry them to a victory. Now, like if Milwaukee was without Giannis, they've got a guy named Damian Lillard who can carry him. Or maybe a guy like Middleton who throws in some, or Portis and Brook Lopez, guys like that. They have won games without Giannis. The Sixers just can't win games without Embiid, and that's problematic because when you look at them, you go, you had a pretty deep roster, but they have a deep roster of players who don't make that much of a difference. Now, Maxey does, obviously, but Maxey is not the superstar level guy that can carry a team without Embiid. Case in point, he scores 32. They still lose. So he doesn't have that rub-off effect yet where he can carry a team without their best player to a victory. Now, this doesn't mean anything except because the Sixers are going to be in the playoffs. with Embiid. So it doesn't matter how they look now. Until we get to the playoffs, we'll see how good they are, and we'll see with all these role players who come in and eat up minutes and whether they can utilize them. And speaking of one of those role players, maybe it's me and maybe I'm a cynic. Marcus Morris got the key to the city today. And I go, why? What was he? Was he like a former mayor? Like, why would Marcus Morris get the key to the city? I'm sorry. I know people go, "Oh, you're too cynical and you're too negative." I'm just asking a question. Would you have woken up one day and said, "You know who deserves the key to the frickin' city? Marcus Morris. Let's make it happen." All right. All right. Okay.
Oh man.
Now let me get to this. Joel Embiid. This never matters to me, but it matters to a lot of people. The MVP thing doesn't matter to me at all. I couldn't care less who gets the MVP. Embiid got it last year. He is now in danger of not playing enough games to be eligible for the MVP since they changed the rules. So a lot of people been out of shape about that. Is Embiid been out of shape? I got to think he is. He talks about the MVP all the time. So with this load management that's going down, has taught me one thing. Now, listen, they've got to be careful with him, so I'm not blaming him. But this load management thing has clearly defined what the NBA is now. It is just a trot to the playoffs. That's all the NBA season is. It's a trot to the playoffs. Nobody cares about the regular season. Nobody cares about playing through the regular season. Nobody even cares about being eligible for awards anymore. They care about preserving their players until the playoffs, which makes the whole regular season a sham. And I sit there and I go, Adam Silver, you've got to recognize these kind of things. They've tried to put in these flimsy rules to prevent guys from sitting out for load management. And you know what all those players have done? And the coaches and management? They got their hand under the chin. What do we care? So I don't know. I don't understand it. The only solution to this problem is to reduce the amount of games that they play, which I know will never, ever happen because that's telling owners you got to give up revenue. Now, what owner is going to give up revenue? Not going to happen. Reduce the season to 65 games. You got a good NBA season. You go right to the playoffs. All right, time to sign off. Did we miss anything here, Darren?
Happy birthday to my Allie, Alexandra, 12 years old, Mike, the associate producer of the show.
Well, 1 year away from being a teen. 2 teens you'll have.
Yeah, 2 teens I'll have.
Very nice. Well, congratulations to Allie on her 12th birthday. All right, folks, thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed it today. As we go into a Monday night, we will have a podcast early Tuesday morning to rehash this season if it's over and to continue it if it's not. You can reach me at email, mike@mikemiss.com. You can check me out on Twitter, MikeMiss25. And I guess that's about it for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.